All right, I'm joined now with one of my favorite people on the planet, largely in part because he's got a terrific smile and he's always positive. I mean, he is the king of positivity, and the world needs a whole lot more of him. Former Bill Kerner joins us now. And Marlon, first of all, great to see your face. Happy holidays, and thank you for doing this with us.
Not a problem. Happy holidays to you, and good seeing you as well.
Yeah. Welcome to Bull in the Basement. I mean, my God, there's so much I want to talk to you about. I want to start with you growing up. Like, what a dream this had to be a dream come true for you. You grow up in Columbus, Ohio. You play high school football in Columbus, Ohio, and you go to Ohio State, who you had to be a fan of since an infant. You probably, at your first Christmas you remember, had probably something Ohio State gifted to you, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, I always had something Ohio State there. Ironically, a lot of people don't know, but I was actually going to go to Notre Dame. I was a huge Notre Dame fan, and I had it narrowed down to either Ohio State. Ohio State was like 1A, Notre Dame was like 1B. And so I was a high school quarterback, and looking at Ohio State back in the day, I knew I couldn't play quarterback there because they were looking for that prototypical style quarterback, needed to be like 6'4", 6'5". And I'm like just above, like a little bit under 6 foot, but I could run fast. And Notre Dame had Tony Rice. They ran the option. You know, I grew up like loving that style of offense. If Oklahoma hadn't got in trouble and got the death penalty, I probably would have went there. I would have considered going there at least. But, you know, that whole thing was just amazing just to play out, going to a city league school. So my high school would be like South Park. I grew up in Columbus. We were pretty good. So our system was really interesting. The way we went with the playoffs, like we were really good in the city league. We beat everybody, and we were trying to make the state playoffs. And in Ohio, they had a point system, the way they calculated it. So my senior year was the first year that we gained enough points to actually go to the state playoffs. So I played against a lot of my former teammates at Ohio State, but we won our first game, lost our second game. And then recruiting process played out. Notre Dame was kind of in the running. That was like I may or may not have senior pictures with Notre Dame gear on. That tells you how much I really wanted to go there.
Wow.
And I remember the process just playing out, and Ohio State was always like, we want you to come, we want you to come, we want you to come. And really, I was kind of like, it's Ohio State. And it was like, there's nothing wrong with going there. But growing up, I'm like, I want to play quarterback. Notre Dame said I could play quarterback. So Ohio State was there. Notre Dame kind of went silent. And I remember the day I called Ohio State, said, listen, I'm coming to play. It's it. I'm done. I'm making a switch to corner, and I'm coming to play football. And about 2 hours later, I get a phone call. And of course, it's from Notre Dame. And Notre Dame's like, hey, Marlon, I know it's late. We want to get you down for a visit. We want to see if we can get you a part of our squad this year. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I've already committed to Ohio State, and I'm going to keep my word. So that's it. So I squashed it there. And it was the best choice for me to go to Ohio State and make the switch from offense to defense.
Man, again, when I always put the verbiage describing what people are going to see in the podcast, one of the things I always write is laugh, learn, and then whatever else. So we're going to laugh a lot, but I never knew you were a high school quarterback. This is amazing.
Yeah.
And that you were a Notre Dame fan growing up in Columbus, which is so sacrilegious. It's remarkable, man.
Don't get me wrong. I rooted for Ohio State. I was always a buck at like cheering for Ohio State. But when it was picking a college, it was, okay, I want to play quarterback. So who gives me the best opportunity to keep that position? Notre Dame does. Now, they probably would have moved me as well. So it made sense to go to Ohio State. And I remember getting recruited at Ohio State to go there. I went to their football camp my junior year and senior year. And the summer of my senior year was my last time at Ohio State's football camp. And I'm there and I'm running and I'm working out and I'm in the group with Bobby Hoying. Like I'm there just meeting all these quarterbacks that they're going to eventually bring in. And I remember we had to run 40s. And so I had never really, like in high school, we timed our 40s, but we always did everything out of a 3-point stance. So I'm like, hey, like guys are coming in with the track stance. I'm like, well, how do you want me to run this? And he's like, well, just run in a 3-point stance. I'm like, okay. So I got down a 3-point stance and ran and then came back and he was like, you got to run another one. I'm like, okay, cool. I'm like, well, what was that? And he was like, 4-4 flat. I'm like, okay. And then got down again. He's like, all right, you're up again. Ran another one, came back. He was like, hey, you ran pretty fast. I'm like, what was that? 4-4 flat. I'm like, out of a 3-point stance? He's like, yeah. I'm like, all right, I go back. I go do my football drills. I'm back doing my quarterback stuff, like just throwing the ball, doing things like that. And then the defensive back coach from Ohio State came over and was like, hey, let me talk to you for a minute. And he's like, hey, I heard about your 40 time. He's like, have you ever played corner? And I'm like, yeah, a little bit. I played a little bit of defensive back in high school, nothing crazy. He's like, why don't you go cover that guy for me? So he kept me there for like 15 minutes. Like I'm going back and forth and I'm covering guys. I'm like, where do you want me to stand? He's like, stand about 7 yards. I'm like, about right here? He's like, yeah. So I'm over here looking this up. I'm sizing people up, like looking at him like, all right, Split says he's got to run inside. He can't outrun me. So I'm going to squat on this route. Like I'm doing all the bad things you're not supposed to do as a corner. And I'm just knocking passes down, breaking passes up, doing all these fun things because nobody there I knew was not going to outrun me. And then we get there and he gets done. He says, okay. He's like, hey, would it be okay if I recruit you as a corner? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, I think you can play corner at the next level. And I would love to have you as a part of our squad if you choose to come here. I'm like, absolutely. Yeah, you can recruit me as a defensive back. No problem. So I got a letter every month from Ohio State. Like it seemed like once a week, but every week I was getting some type of mail, some type of media guide, something from Ohio State. And then it was always fun going to their games, just watching it with some of my other friends. And I had a really good high school team. 4 of my guys went to Ohio State. So it was myself, the late Terry Glenn, the late Jason Gwen, and his brother, Anthony Gwen. All 4 of us played high school football together, and all 4 of us went to play football at Ohio State.
Wow, it's incredible. So who was responsible for missing on you at Notre Dame? What head coach recruited you?
Lou Holtz was the head coach then.
Okay.
So I'm not sure who was responsible for the reason, for the region. But it was kind of one of those, like, they kind of had their own regions. They were looking for guys. And the first time I was kind of a nerdy athlete, I guess it was an oxymoron to say. So the first time Notre Dame came, I had a National Honor Society function I had to go to. So I had to be out at a certain time and he didn't identify himself. So I left to go to my National Honor Society event. We were like doing something out of the community. I think we were like at the food bankers doing something like that. So I said that was more important. So I went to that. And so then he was supposed to come back and he didn't. So maybe he just felt like I wasn't that committed to Notre Dame. But I was waiting and waiting and waiting. And it just took too long. And Ohio State was there the entire time. And that was it. I took 3 visits. Actually 2 visits. I went to Indiana, then I went to Ohio State, and I'm like, I'm done. I don't need to go anywhere else. Like, I'm going to Ohio State. I'm going to the Ohio State University, and it was a really good decision for me.
Oh man, I'll tell you what, you played with some really good guys. I mean, you mentioned Terry Glenn, who was phenomenal, had a great NFL career, obviously. And speaking of speed, holy cow, that guy, yeah. Man, having to cover that guy every day in practice, I'm sure was a chore. Joey Galloway, Eddie George. I mean, you played with some really, really studly guys. And then, I'm forgot Orlando Pace, I think you played with at some point, right?
Pace, Corey Stringer, Sean Springs, Raymond Harris, Bobby Hoyne, Chris Sanders, you name it. There was guys every year that I played with that got drafted really high. So it was just kind of cool just to kind of see that process. I remember getting to Ohio State and coming from being the fastest guy on your high school team to being one of the, like, watching Joey Galloway run. It was a whole different level. And just seeing how fast he was and how athletic those guys was. And Chris Sanders, who was a world-class sprinter and a world-class long jumper, like coming in, jumping 26 feet coming out of high school. Like we called him tippy toes because his heels never touched the ground. He always walked on his toes. And I'm like, man, this dude can fly, can jump. And I'm like, yeah, and could run great routes and had really good hands. And so coming in and seeing that amount of talent made you really become a better football player. And unfortunately, we just didn't have the record we wanted to have against that team up north. But I mean, against everyone else, like we were really good in college, just not probably as focused as we needed to be when it came down to crunch time.
I was going to say, you doubly hated Michigan, right? I mean, if you're an Ohio State fan and a Notre Dame fan, you automatically hate Michigan. You doubly hated Michigan.
Couldn't stand Michigan. And I remember getting a letter from them like, it's cool to get a letter to be recruited, but yeah, I'm not going there. That's never going to happen. Like, I'm going to have to, never going to Michigan. Never happens.
Pretty impressive. A couple of other guys that you ran with at Ohio State. Vrabel who's done a heck of a job in Tennessee as their head coach, and Luke Fickell, who is crushing it at Cincinnati. They're in the Final Four now. I mean, talk about those two guys.
Yeah, I mean that's the amount of talent that we brought there, and just kind of looking at those guys, I knew those guys were going to be really good, especially Luke as a coach, because he had been doing it for a long time. I played against Luke in high school. Literally, our high school was probably about a block apart. He went to St. Francis de Sales. I went to Columbus Brookhaven, and we played each other a couple of times. He actually beat us twice, so he has that going. But I mean, I knew he was going to be a good coach, and then watching Vrabel have the career he had and then come here to Ohio State and then have great success, I was like, okay, he's going to be a really good football coach as well. And they do it the right way. They build relationships. They're sound in their philosophy, and I think their approach is not like I'm bigger than the game. Their approach is I can always learn something. And I think that's really humbling as a player to see a coach saying, hey, I don't know everything and I'm willing to learn something. And I think more coaches could probably take note of how those guys are doing it.
Can you put into words what it's like playing in the horseshoe?
There's nothing like it. Really, there's nothing like it. I think it holds now about 105,000. And when I was there, it held about 95, 96,000. So imagine the loudest sound that you've ever heard at the Bill Stadium and then double it, because our fans are crazy. They get loud. And they're just as crazy as we are. Their body's going to be painted. You're going to have a half scarlet, half gray face, all the block O's everywhere. And it's just going to be crazy. And they're right up on you. So it's not that far, because they dug out the track and brought everything a little closer. But it's just amazing to hear how loud that stadium gets. And if you're not playing well, they're going to let you know. So you're going to hear both of it, because they're quick to tell you if you're not playing well, and they'll boo you really fast. But they'll cheer you when you make all the great plays. Being
a player, you never got to see that amazing marching band at halftime. So you had to leave Ohio State, or, well, obviously when you were a kid, you went to watch them before you went to play there. But, you had to wait until you were done playing to see how good they really were.
Right. Yeah. And I actually really didn't get to see it in person until I went back as like honorary captain of the game. So I got to see the whole spectacle, but I was on the field. So it was really tough to see. And then the next time I got to see them perform was when they were here. They came here a few years ago.
That's right.
They performed during halftime. And so I really got to watch it, got to go take some pictures. So that was really cool just to get them like, hey, look, former Buckeye, really haven't gotten to see too much of the marching band, but it was amazing to see. And so, yeah, I mean, that band, it's the best damn band in the land. And I will stick to that no matter what anybody says. You could argue anybody else. And I know there are some really good bands elsewhere, but to me, there's no other band that I would rather sit and listen to than the band from the Ohio State University.
Dude, I was watching something the other day. I think they were doing like a Star Wars formation or something with like, what? Like, so I will put this out there right now that marching band, I don't care what level you're at, but if you're doing like formations like that band does, you are some of the most underrated in terms of talent people on the planet. I can't imagine having to play an instrument, know what music you're playing, and actually walk backwards, sideways, forwards, like man, how talented are they?
They're talented. I mean, you talk about the Star Wars. I saw that on YouTube. They did one with Michael Jackson, where they played all Michael Jackson songs and did a moonwalk, which is pretty amazing to see how you could do a moonwalk as a marching band. But it was amazing to see. They've done some amazing things as a marching band. They're always one up in it. So it's always fun to watch and see what they're going to do next.
So Marlon Kerner grows up in Columbus. We found out for the first time ever on this podcast that he was a Notre Dame fan first, which is crazy. Decides to go to Ohio State. In his senior year, you were the captain of the Buckeyes, second leading tackler on the team. I mean, really unbelievable, blow my mind kind of stuff. This is awesome. Then you end your career at Ohio State. You get drafted by the Bills in the third round, and I think it was 95. Is that right?
95, yes, sir.
Okay. When you were picked by the Bills in 95 third round, first thing that went through your mind, you probably looked at the roster. You were familiar with the Super Bowl teams, but maybe it wasn't. I mean, were you a Bengals guy growing up? Were you a Browns fan? Like, who's your pro team?
The Broncos.
The Broncos.
I never liked, honestly, I mean, I had my speech prepared. If I had got selected by the Browns or the Bengals, like, hey, I'm an Ohio boy, lifelong dream. to play for one of the organizations, but I was not a Browns or a Bengals fan growing up. I was a Broncos fan. I hate to say it, I was a big fan of the Drive Part 1 and Part 2. I loved Elway. I mean, I was a quarterback. I wanted to throw the football. So those are guys that I kind of wanted to look at and kind of that was my role models, kind of looking up. And I'm just like, man, you know, like Denver Broncos, that orange strut defense, John Elway, Ricky Nattil, Vance Joseph. I mean, I'm just like, hey, let's go. Like, I had my guys down. I was loving it. You know, I just kind of looked at it. And then I thought I was going to get drafted by the Broncos, but they didn't have a pick that day. And I had no idea that the Bills were even interested in drafting or selecting me. Like, they didn't say anything. I think I had my pro day, and I ran a 4.35 40. And they're like, man, you were flying. Like, what did you eat? I'm like, pancakes. And he was like, you should eat that more often. And that was the only conversation that I had with somebody from the Bills. I think it was John Butler. And then I get the phone call, and it's crazy because this story always cracks me up because I'm at home and I go to my aunt's house. So I decide to have all my family come over, all my friends come over, we're hanging out. You know, they're like, hey, you're going to go, you may get drafted from 3 to 6. So you could go on the first day or you can go on the second day. So in my mind, I'm thinking, you know what, I'll probably go on the second day. No biggie, just get me there. All I want to do is get there. And so I go to my aunt's house. My mom had gotten married when I graduated from high school. So my stepdad was in the Air Force. So they moved to Germany. They stayed in Holland, and then they were up in Rome, New York. And so I'm like, all right, cool. So we all come down, we're hanging out. And in Ohio, that's when the draft was on ESPN1, started at noon, went to like about 7:30, and then it switched over to ESPN2. So you had to have ESPN2. And in Ohio, you had ESPN, ESPN2, and then we had something called the Sports Channel. It was like 44, and it showed all local and mostly Cleveland sports. So I'm like, all right. So I talked to my aunt, like, hey, do you have ESPN2? Yep, I got it, no problem. I'm like, are you sure you have ESPN2? We got to call and order it because the draft's going to switch to that and we can't watch it at 7:30. Yep, I got it. Get there. We're about to switch it over, and she doesn't have it. So I'm like, well, this sucks. So sitting there just kind of watching the ticker on the bottom. And then I see they're in the 3rd round, and I'm just kind of like looking at it a little bit. So I'm hanging out with my friends, my brother. I have a twin brother, by the way. So my twin brother and I were just kind of hanging out. We're just kind of sitting there watching the draft, just looking at everything. And we decided we're going to get up and go bowling. Hey, let's go bowling. Let's just go. I saw all my friends get drafted. So I watched Joey get picked. I watched a couple of surprises. Craig Powell get drafted in the 1st round by the Cleveland Browns. I'm like, I'm loving it. Watching my guys go all these great places. And then I'm sitting there looking like, hey, they're in the 3rd round. Like, I literally have a coat and hat on. It was pretty cold. I'm like, all right, let's give me 5 minutes. Let me just see where they are on the draft. And then I have a cousin. We're like 3 months apart. And she's sitting there. And so we had the whole, you know, directive. Nobody gets on the phone. We need to be able to hear the phone ring. So of course, what does she do? She gets on the phone. And so I'm like, she calls up. Like, I don't hear a phone ring. She's like, Marlon. I'm like, yes. She's like, telephone. I'm like, I didn't hear the phone ring. Who's on it? I don't know. Some guy from the Buffalo Bills. And so the whole room gets quiet. And I pick up the phone and I answer like, hello. And he's like, Marlon Kerner. I'm like, yes. He's like, this is Dwight Adams from the Buffalo Bills. He's like, congratulations, you're a Buffalo Bill. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And she talked to me a little bit about everything and what to expect and who's going to call me next. And then that was it. So I sat there for a few minutes, kind of like, all right, ever since I was 4 years old, I wanted to play football. I wanted to play in the NFL. And so I was about to get that chance. And then we got the hugs, we got the tears out of the way. And then I just went bowling. Like, literally, I just went back and was like, all right, let's go bowling. I'm good. And that was it. And I just went, and I didn't do anything. I didn't say anything. I just kind of talked with my best friend who was there with me at the time. And we were just like, man, this is crazy. Like, you're about to go play in the NFL. How cool is that? And then we had to get ready for, all right, I knew the Bills, look at the roster, who's there. I knew who Jeff Burris was because I had the media guide. So I knew some of the guys that were there. And I was like, all right, let's go get ready. Let's go play some football.
And of course, Jeff Burris was a Notre Dame guy.
Yes.
I mean, you came onto a super talented team, right? I mean, you played with all the Super Bowl guys, really. when you first
Right.
got there. And I think for the first couple of years of your Bills career, all the super Jim and Thurman and Andre and
Had the whole four, the big four. We had
Bruce,
all four of them. Bruce, Thurman.
Biscuit, right?
Biscuit was my rookie year. Yeah, my first year there, Biscuit was there, and then he got traded to Atlanta
Right.
right after that. But I mean, there was just so much talent. Hanson was still there, and Chris Spielman had got signed. So you were looking at just a lot of things. Kurt Schultz in the secondary. I mean, there were just some guys that just made that transition so much more smooth for me coming in. And Tasker and how quick he was in out of the break made me really understand, like, okay, there's high school level receivers, there's college level receivers, and then there's pro level receivers. And then going against Andre and Tasker every day, and Russell Copeland, and then getting Eric Moulds coming in a few years later, like those guys were on a whole different level. So it was really fun just kind of learning how to play the game, the little nuances, how to watch film, because those are things that was kind of lacking at different programs. And even at Ohio State, they didn't really teach us the proper way to watch film, what you're really looking at, how you get their tendencies. So we kind of always listen to what the coaches were saying. And so if they missed something, then there was holes in it. But then we learned how to watch it, take what the coaches were saying, and then figure out what we also saw and was able to incorporate that into our game and how we played on Sundays. And that's how we won some games.
Yeah. Bryce Pop, also part of that team. He was
Bryce Pop was part of that team. I mean,
good.
Yes. I mean, it was unreal to see Bruce on one end, Phil on one end, Ted Washington and Pat Williams coming in up in the middle. I mean, it was amazing with the amount of talent that was there. Sam Rogers on the outside, David White playing. I mean, it was just a lot of fun. And then my draft class, Ruben Brown, Todd Collins, my guy, I talk to still to this day, Ken Irvin. You still had Henry Jones in that secondary, Thomas Smith on the other corner. So I mean, it was loaded. It was just a lot. And then Derek Holmes coming in that draft class. It was just amazing to kind of come in and be like, wow, like this is what the NFL looks like. The only thing that I would say that kind of caught me off guard was I got there and I saw the locker room. And I'm like, wow, this is an NFL locker room. Like, this is not an NFL locker room. Like, and this is not an NFL weight room. Like, this is different than what I'm accustomed to. But I'm loving this. I'll take this.
That is funny because I've been in both back when in and around when you played. And yeah, they were, man, that was sparse. And it was ancient, kind of like the actual stadium. I mean, the stadium, think about it, is 50 years old. And yes. Yeah, it wasn't comparable to anywhere near what it looks like now. That's for sure. Your coaches was it Marv and Wade? Is that right?
Marv and then Wade. And then my position coach was Dick Roach. And he was a stickler for technique and really like watching film and knowing the formations and knowing everything. So he really gave me a very solid foundation for understanding, all right, these are our calls, these are our foundations, these are formations you're going to see. Like he would literally put us up on a whiteboard and like draw this formation and we call it this and this. So it was this and a number formation, and then we had a color for it, and I had to be able to say all those things and then be able to do his technique. What he loved it, what he called a mirror and roll technique, which helped you break on the ball a lot faster. And if you couldn't do his technique, you couldn't play for him.
So it was Fredonia for training camp, right? Every year?
Yes. Fredonia for training camp every year.
That's a little change from what you were used to as well, huh?
Absolutely. Yes. Wide open. It was different, but I didn't mind that. It was just cool. I'm like, listen, I'm in the NFL. So this is cool. And we were in full pads. We had 2 a days, 2.5 hour, 3 hour practices. It was not like it is now. So you like day one, you're in pads hitting. Now it's like, I think 3 days, like you have to go through a process of, you have to go through so many days, have so many practices in before you can put pads on. And then you're not even hitting full, you have so many days you can be in pads throughout the entire year. Like, no, we were full go. It was fun just to kind of watch. And Marv would be like, hey, we're going to go goal line, but I want you to kind of go half speed thud up. And all it took was one running back to run through the thud and be like, I scored. And then it just got real competitive right there. Like, yep, nope, there's no more thud up. We're going full go.
That's fantastic. Talk a little bit about, so you go 95, last year was 98 or 9?
99.
99, okay. And was that
technically right before training camp in 99. So for me, I was having came in and played a lot as a rookie, and then Jeff Burst goes down. He tears the ACL, so then I get thrust into the starting lineup and then play, and then we get to the playoffs and we lose to Pittsburgh in the second round. Cordell Stewart ran out of bounds and caught a touchdown pass. Yeah, they cheated. So I don't like the Steelers either. But second year, played well. Third year, I'm playing well, and then I tear my left ACL with like 3 games left. And then I come back and rehab, and only to come back and tear my right ACL the first game of the next season. So I spent the next year on IR, get healthy, and then trying to get healthy the second time, and then get released like right before training camp comes. And they actually released me because they needed to make a roster space for the other Ohio State corner that they had just drafted in Anton Winfield. So I'm like, okay, so I'm like, it doesn't matter. I'm going to get healthy, but I'm trying to do all these things. I move back to Columbus. I'm doing my rehab there, and it just took a lot longer. And then never really just kind of came the way I wanted it to feel, where I felt comfortable. But I'm watching the Music City Miracle unfold, and I'm sitting there and I'm watching it with my cousin. And we're like, we're up. And then he's laughing because he's like, your team's about to lose. I'm like, no. And I'm literally calling this play out. Like, I'm sitting at home, lying, look, it's a throwback. They're setting up the wall. Like, I'm calling out what they're doing because this is something that we talked about the entire time. And I was actually the safety on the side where it was actually being formed to.
Oh my gosh.
So I'm watching this whole thing play out. Like, go to the guy. See the guy outside. He's hanging outside. Go to him now. Safety. Go get it. Don't go to the wall. Don't get caught outside. Go right to the man. Knock the pass down. Game's over. And they catch it. We can argue and debate whether it was a lateral or not. It was going forward. Okay, there, I said it. But I'm sitting home like, man, I would have made that play because I'm watching this play unfold. But that's just the nature of the business of the game. They made one more play than we did, and they go on and they lose. They come up 2 yards short of winning the Super Bowl. And then I'm done. I'm done playing football. I'm 25 years old, and I'm out of the NFL. And so I'm like, all right, now what next? And I ended up getting married to a Buffalo girl. So we come back to Buffalo, and I get a house here. And then I start working for KeyBank because I'm trying to just figure out what I want to do next. I stay there for a few years, go to Tops. Don't like everything there. So I leave. And then I end up getting with Target, only to end up getting back with the Bills 5 years ago now. So that was a lot of fun, a lot of growth in myself, just kind of watching everything that I did and went through as a player. And I can say transitioning from playing the NFL is so hard to do when you're not really in that mindset to think like I'm ready to go. So it took me a minute to kind of process that part of, okay, you're done playing football. You just start thinking differently and come up with some different plans of what you want to do and how that's going to look career-wise. So when I got in that role as director of player engagement, I really understood because I'm like, I'm you. I'm you in 20 years. Like this, you're going to be me, kind of like, hey, so it was really important for me to really help those guys really understand that it's important to play football. You have to be prepared for that because that's why you're here. But you also need to have a game plan of what that looks like when you're done, because it's going to come faster than you think. And it's going to come before you're really ready for it. Because most of us don't get a chance to say, I'm done. There are some guys like Kyle, Lorenzo, Stephen Hauschka as of late that get to kind of say, hey, you know what, I think I'm done. But for most people, you don't get to choose when you're done. The game kind of says you're done and you get forced out.
That's so interesting. And I was going to ask you because your career was short. I mean, they say the average NFL career is 4 years or whatever it is. And that's what yours was. But yours was ended not because you chose it to be ended, really. It's your injuries caught up to you. And so my question is for you, that had to be a blow. And this is why I love you so much, because you're always upbeat, you're always smiling. And I want to know how you dealt with that and who you leaned on to help you get through that. Because you made it to the peak, man. You made it to the NFL. You played at a high level, and then all of a sudden, not to your own doing, it's over. So how did you talk or walk through that, and who did you lean on to help you?
Honestly, I think I had some little naiveness going on with it, right? Because when you first get injured, you don't think that's going to be the end for me. So I was like, I can bounce back from that because we're athletes. So we put our bodies on the line. We do a lot of things that probably we shouldn't do. We play through a lot of pain. Like there were times I probably shouldn't have played that I played anyway. I'm like, I don't even know how I made it through this game. Like, hey, give me this, give me a shot here. Let's do this. Like, put a bandage this way, tighten it up, put some tape on it, put a pad on it, like do these things. So in my mind, I'm thinking this is just a little setback and I'm going to figure out how to overcome it. Right. And then once you start getting the reality of, okay, wait a minute, like this is not going to go the way I want it to go. I never really got to the point of, man, well, why me? Right. Like I had some of those moments, like, cause that's a natural reaction. Like, well, what did I do? Like, did I do something wrong? Like, why did I not overcome it? Cause you saw guys that maybe weren't as athletically talented as you, or didn't approach the game the same way that you did, that could tear the ACL and come back from it. Like I watched guys tear the ACL 3 times. Like I think there was a linebacker for Carolina who tore his ACL 3 times and came back and still played and had a
Thomas
long
Davis.
career.
Yeah. Yep.
And I'm like, man, like why couldn't that be me? Right. But that just wasn't me. And I think I always kind of, me and my grandmother always talk about things. You like, grandma, I was like right there. Like I was this close to like getting that second contract, which would have been generational, set up a whole bunch of different things. Right. And, we would always have that conversation of, hey, you can't miss money you never had. And I'm like, that's true. Right. Like it wasn't like I had it and I lost it. I mean, it was, if you do well and you play, you could get this, but it didn't happen. So I can't be upset about something where you're like, hey, you could have got a 5-year, $15 million contract. I could have, yeah, but I didn't. So I move on. And I came to kind of deal with it more of I like the person that I am now. And I always believe that everything happens for a reason, and kind of everything kind of shapes you to become the person you're supposed to be. And so I always kind of rationalize, like, I could have gotten it, and I could have been somebody that I didn't like, and I might not have liked me, who I became, or it could have caused more issues and drama within my own family or within the people that I held close and near and dear to me. So therefore, I couldn't get that, because I always had the mindset of, you can always go get a job and make money. So I'm not worried about that part of it. Just I had a whole bunch of goals and I held on to some things. Like it took me a long time to let go of a few things. Like I always kind of felt like I failed in certain respects and certain aspects, because there were certain goals that I had that I didn't accomplish. So I kind of held on to that. So some of the stuff I kind of buried and just kind of went, I'm moving on. And then some things I dealt with immediately. And over time, I kind of let things go and just kind of said, you know what, you made it to the highest level. You competed at the highest level. It didn't go the way you wanted to go, but that doesn't take away from anything that you got to that so far. So let it go and move on and keep it moving. And so then it was able to kind of get through that and help guys that when I was in that role as director of player engagement, to help them understand, like, look, man, look, this business is quick, and it's a business. It's not a game. Like there is no, we can be friends. We can talk outside of football, but the business is not going to be kind to you. The business is going to chew you up and spit you out, because that's what it does.
Yeah, again, the attitude is phenomenal, man. I mean, I think there would be a lot of people that aren't as good as you that would crumble going through what you went through. So again, I applaud you for getting through it the way you did. I'm curious why, and maybe you did. Why did you not get back into football in terms of any kind of a coaching role, or is that just not anything you were really interested in?
I was never interested in coaching. And I think for me, I needed to get away from football. I think it was cathartic for me to get away, right? Because I was holding on to I failed. I wasn't mad at John Butler. I wasn't mad at the coaches. Like that, to me, that was business. Like, so I didn't have any, I didn't harbor any ill feelings against them. Like if I saw them on the street, we could shake hands and talk. It was just more of, I thought like, man, I failed. Like I didn't get this. Like I had this goal. I'm gonna play for 10 years and walk away. Like I said, I'm gonna be just like Barry and be done and walk away. Right. And I had all these things I'm gonna do. X,
or
Y,
Robert Smith, right?
Yeah, Robert Smith, all those guys, like I'm just gonna walk away.
Yep.
And so when I didn't get that, I was kind of like, yeah, I don't need to be around football, because I watched what they did and I understood how much time went into it. And I never wanted to be that type of guy away from my family that much, and missing everything and missing my kids growing up. So that was kind of important for me to get away from football. And then so when I got away from it, then I'm like, man, you know what? I should have stayed in football, because I kind of miss it.
Well, you got back into it a little bit later. You know, you and I did some TV stuff with Time Warner back in the day, and that was a lot of fun. And then, as you mentioned, you worked for the Bills for a little bit, coming back. But you've done some amazing things most recently. Oh, let me back up. And there was a time when I actually saw you wearing your red shirt, your red polo with pride, working at our Target in our neighborhood. And I was like, Marlon, what's up, man?
Absolutely.
You're like, what are you doing?
I mean, I love working at Target. Target was Target was good for me. Target helped me really grow leadership wise. It helped me kind of understand and understand people, because I was just around a lot of people, and it helped me understand, like, I mean, yeah, I took all the good with the bad. There were some interesting people that came in. I mean, when we had lady come in, like literally lady came in one time. I laugh about it still to this day, because she was like, I have a master's degree and you just work retail and you are beneath me. And I was like, yeah, right. And she was like, I want this. I'm like, yeah, nope, not gonna happen. Like, not gonna happen. Like, I'm not gonna violate company policy for you. I don't care who you are. Like, and we live like, she's literally going with this shouting match over, you're beneath me. And I'm like, so do you really think you telling me that I'm beneath you is going to help make me be more inclined to help you? Like, think about this for lady. Like, think about it. Like, think about this seriously. I have a master's degree in education, like, and so does this guy right here. And he's also a Target manager as well. Like, and I'm like, yeah, and I have a college degree as well. And she's like, no, I'm like, I do, but actually, yeah. So that was like stuff like that. You like, but there were so many great people I met, so many great interactions, just the things we got to do. And I love the fact that because of my relationship with the Bills and other players, like, I was able to help guys kind of do some of their Christmas things they wanted to do at my store. So that was cool. Like, Ruben would come, Arthur Moat to come there. Anybody that was just wanted to do something locally, they either came to my store or I got them with another store, the Orchard Park store or somewhere else. So I love those things that we got to do. And I love the red and khaki. I mean, I kind of got rid of it. I left. So I'm like, I moved on. I'm like, yeah, I'm good. But it was a good time at Target. And I met a lot of really good people at Target. And I still go to Target. And I had a couple of drinks at Starbucks named after me, because we made a few.
Shut
so
up.
I still go there and order them. Yeah. There's a hot chocolate frappuccino that has a little bit of a flair to it called the Marlon. So if you go to the one in Depew and say, hey, can I get a Marlon? They actually will pull out a little extra drink book and a menu that they pull out, and it has all the steps on how to make it.
Very nice. That's impressive. That's really impressive. And I applaud you for your tolerance. Because generally people suck. and I applaud your tolerance, especially in that situation, because I know that, and you just put it in the story version, but you probably saw that even more than we even have time for. Okay, let's fast forward. You move on. Congratulations, you got your master's at the Bonnies, right? At Bonaventure, and now Absolutely. You're doing what?
I am now the community director for a nonprofit organization called Entrepreneurs Forever. So I like to say we get to help businesses kick butt, but really we seek out small businesses within our community that have been at least in business for 1 year, have revenues between 30,000 but a little under $1 million. And we're looking to kind of really help you still continue to grow and scale your business, right? So we start looking at it. There's a lot of business, like if you get a part of an accelerator, they can help you with your ideation phase. It gets you to a lot of places. And then once you kind of get out of that, there's not a lot of support until you start hitting certain thresholds in revenue. So we kind of come in and help those businesses that kind of, hey, I could use some support. I could use another network to kind of help me just kind of figure some things out. You may have worked at a company for a long time and then decided you're going to buy it. And now you're the owner and you're like, hey, it's one thing to be a manager and kind of run it and help run it. But now you're doing all the day-to-day and you're like, I've got to do X, Y, and Z, and I'm not prepared for that yet. So we look for people like that. And we kind of do a peer-to-peer model. So I like to say it's like a little locker room that you have of small business owners. And really, they're your accountability network. They're the ones that are going to help you talk through issues that you have. So you might do some issue processing with that group and talk through it. You might say, hey, I'm struggling, because as a business owner, you wear a lot of hats, right? You're the owner, you're marketing, you're HR. Sometimes you're the opener and the closer. You're the guy doing all the cleaning. You might do all the ordering. You might have to stock it. Whatever your business is, you're doing all those things, and you wear a lot of hats. And so we just kind of help guys and women not feel so lonely and so isolated, because that's the one thing that you hear from entrepreneurs is it's so lonely, because like you're doing a 1,000 things, working a lot of hours. You might not have the right plan of, I'm gonna pay myself this amount of money, or I'm gonna pay myself at this time, or you might even have a plan of what I want to do next. If I get to this threshold, I'm gonna do X, Y, and Z. So we just help you talk through all those things. And I think the best thing about it is because we're a nonprofit, it's free. And so a lot of people don't really believe it, but it really is free. So if you qualify and we go through the process and you become a member of our peer group, you're with us, and you're not going to pay a dime, and I love it.
How can people get a hold of you in that business, whether it's a website or a phone number or both?
They can email me at any point in time, or they can shoot me a text. My phone number is area code 716-310-3982. If you want to text me about football, you can do that too. Or you can email me at mkerner, KERNER, at the4ever.org.
Fair enough. We'll have that up in print when we publish this, so people will have all that because they're going to need it. And there's so many entrepreneurs these days that even if it's just not so much entrepreneurial, you're sort of new to it, but obviously there's COVID issues now too, which are
right.
Anybody that's in a new business or has started one in the last couple of years that has run into these kind of issues that they never thought for a million years that they had to deal with. Now they can go to you guys for some support in that realm. Okay, a couple of fun things to close out here, Marlon. First of all, what was Black Friday like working at Target?
Black Friday, because of COVID, is totally different. But the old traditional way, I think it started like used to come in like almost midnight. And then it started getting earlier and earlier and earlier. But you would work like 12, 13-hour shifts. It was crazy mayhem, lines around the door. People would just line up like, I want this and I want that. And you would have just mass staff, lines everywhere. You would just kind of just direct people the right way. And you were there just to solving the issues. Like, I think the one night we had every register, every cart reader went down. So every register had to reboot. And it takes about 10 minutes for every register to reboot. So I'm like, I'm sorry, I apologize. Like, I'm at Starbucks, like, make me drinks, make me samples, give me this, give me all kind of things. But we got through it. Everybody was really cool about it. And if you had cash, you were good. But if you're using a card, like, hey, I'm sorry, you're gonna have to wait for a second while the register rebooted. I mean, it was just nonsense, but I loved it. It was so much fun to do that and be a part of that process and to watch it, because you got to see people that you knew in the neighborhood, and you're like, go here, this item is here, this item is there, go do this, go do that, and you're just helping people make Christmas memories for their kids and their families and their friends, and so that part was really cool. I mean, and you see some crazy stuff, like I saw somebody use fake counterfeit bills.
What?
Really, he did. Like, dude had a stack of counterfeit bills, and was like, hey, and came in, was like TVs. He had like $3,000 worth of merchandise and was trying to pay with counterfeit bills, and literally stood in line, gave the money to our cashier. She's like, hey, that doesn't look right. She calls me over. I was like, hey, I think these bills are counterfeit. I'm like, absolutely, they're counterfeit. And there's cops everywhere. There's cops everywhere. So then I had to go. I'm like, hey, Mr. Officer, can you take a look at this bill? He looks at it and was like, where'd you get it? I'm like, register over here. The guy stays. Like, he literally stood there. Like, I don't know why he didn't think like, oh my God. He stood there. Cops come over and says, hey, so the money you're paying with is counterfeit. And he's like, it is? He's like, yeah. And he arrested him right there.
Oh my God.
So and then he has friends. So his friends skedaddle, like they break out, they leave. He gets handcuffed and gets escorted out. And then he had more counterfeit money on him. I'm just like, dude, like, I can't believe you literally stayed in line when you saw the police start walking over towards you. I would have made a beeline and be like, I'm out of here. But those are things that I just take. I'm like, I can't believe I just actually watched this. Like,
and you probably had to play peacemaker at some point, two moms fighting over, an RC car or something, or the last one.
You play peacemaker. Hey, you know what? It's our last one. Let me substitute something for you. Like, anything you could do to really try to make the peace, we did. I mean, as long as you treated me with respect, I was going to find a way to help you. And I think that's the biggest thing. So I think, I love going through all those crazy experiences, because it taught me, like, when you start asking other questions, people are going through things, and sometimes they take their personal lives out on you. So if you can get them to understand, like, hey, listen, I'm the only one in this building that's actually authorized and qualified to help you. So just kind of take it down a little bit. Then it helped me. So it helped me kind of learn how to diffuse situations really quickly.
Yeah.
And we even got that lady to calm down too. Like, wow. It took a while, but we got her to kind of diffuse, like, I can't do that. But if you do X, Y, and Z, I can do this, this, and this. And so she kind of understood, like, oh, you are trying to help me. I'm sorry for being rude. Like, so yeah, but I mean, you laugh and you smile through all of those things, because people are having bad days, and sometimes you just get to take it out on you. And I'm like, I'm good. Like, I can take it.
What's your you got a favorite Christmas song?
Not really. I like all Christmas music. I'll listen to everything.
Yeah.
You know, I like to watch. I always like to watch This Christmas. I like Chris Brown's version of This Christmas. So I'll listen to that a lot. And on Christmas Day, my wife is always going to turn on Mariah Carey's All I Want for Christmas CD. So we're going to have that CD playing immediately. And then we'll open our gifts. My kids are older now, so they don't get up early. So I love that because it's it's a very mellow Christmas morning. Because they might not get up to like 9:30, 10 o'clock or later now. So they're just like, hey, give me money or gift cards and I'm good. And so I'd sleep in and just kind of relax or make some breakfast and kind of say, hey, get up, drink some tea and just relax and kind of say, hey, it's going to be a nice quiet morning. But those are the things I love. Like that's my song. So I'll watch this Christmas. I'll probably watch it tomorrow night. And then my wife wants to watch what's the one, the train, the Polar Express. He wants to watch the Polar Express, so we'll have to watch the Polar Express. I'll make sure I watch Rudolph at some point and Frosty at some point because gotta watch those still.
Sure.
But nothing too crazy as Christmas songs. Just Mariah Carey is probably the one I'm always going to hear the most.
What do you love most? I mean, you stayed here. I mean, obviously you married a Buffalo girl. You could have gone anywhere after your career. What do you like most about Buffalo?
Buffalo reminds me of being at home, and I didn't want to stay in Columbus, so Buffalo. I love the community that you have. I love the people that are here. I love the food that's here. But it just felt like home. And I knew I didn't want to stay in Columbus. So coming here was just so much more natural. People, I mean, we are really the city of good neighbors. And even though I laugh and I joke about my experiences at some of the people that have said crazy things at Target, like it was totally the opposite. I had way more great experiences and way more people coming in and talking, way more people coming in and saying, hey, can I take a picture with you, even in red and khaki? Hey, if I brought a picture back, can you sign it? Yeah, sure, no problem. And I'm not the guy that talks it. I play for you would have to either see my name or know that I played football, because I'm never going to go and tell you that's what I did. And so I laugh about that when people are like, hey, you used to play. I did. I would never deny it. But so I love just the fact that this community has been so welcoming to me when I first got here. And so supportive throughout my entire time here. So I love just everyone here. I've made so many great friends and so many great connections, and still am making so many great friends, so many connections. So Buffalo is always going to be home, even though I'm kind of getting over the snow. So thank goodness we have none right now. So I love it, but we could do with less snow for me. And I know some people might be listening, like, I love the snow. I'm good. I think I'm about fed up with snow.
Yeah, I mean, I've lived in Western New York my whole life, and I hate cold and I hate snow. Why am I still here? For all the same reasons you just described. And obviously, gosh, we've talked for 45 minutes and haven't even mentioned the Bills. So the current Bills. So let's talk about the current Bills, and let's talk about the Patriot game and how important this is. Listen, I think everybody thought that the Patriot game, the first one, was important. The Tampa game was important. This one is utterly important. And I did a little Twitter poll the other day, and I asked the fans, what is your level of confidence in this team? And it was literally split. Like 50-ish% said they're gonna win. The other 50% said they might or they won't win. So what do you think, man? I mean, they played the Titans close. You could argue they probably should have won that game as kind of a fluky end, right? They got blown out by the Colts. We know that, but they played close to the Patriots in the first game. They played close to Tampa in the first game. They haven't really won a significant game since Kansas City, and they weren't good back then. So they haven't really beaten. They've played up to, but haven't beaten a really good quality opponent. So neither has the Patriots. People forget about that. Their record against good teams is about the same as the Bills. So what do you make of this game going into it? Obviously, COVID is playing a huge role in it for both teams. So what do you make of the Bills to date and then going into the game?
I personally think they are exactly where I thought they would be. I didn't have them repeating and going like 13-4 or 14-3 this year because I thought we had the benefit of getting some really good calls in our favor last year, and people didn't really know how good we were as an offense. So we could sneak up on a few teams, and we had some weapons that people didn't know how to defend yet. I think this year I had them probably around that 12-5, 11-6 kind of range. I thought that's where they would fall in. So they're playing right where I thought they would play. I just thought that we were going to play some teams that would give our guards some trouble, because just knowing our offensive line, knowing our team and what we like to do, anybody that could get a good solid rush over the guards was going to give us a fit. I thought our tackles would hold up and play pretty well. Obviously, you had to do some shuffling around there. I thought Stefan had an amazing year last year, and I thought he was somebody that going into this year, teams are going to take notice of and try to figure out how to take him away. And it was interesting to see how not having Smoke on the other side, who was a bona fide deep threat. Now, I think Emmanuel Sanders was a good compliment in adding there, but I don't think they ran the same complement of routes that they had with Smoke for Sanders. They ran some different things for him. So the offense kind of morphed. I thought defenses, once they figured out the cover 2 scheme that they were playing with Tampa, and knowing that we like the home run and knowing we like to take shots, if you could kind of slow that down, then I thought teams would figure that out. So teams figured that out. And I'm like, okay, that's good to know. And I thought early on we just didn't know how we wanted to attack it. I think the emergence of Dawson Knox really helps that offense, because now you can get some methodical drives. I liked last week we ran the ball with a concerted effort. We gave the ball, even though it went for some like negative plays, or it was at the line of scrimmage, we still kept running. And I think going into the rest of the season, we had to do that. And we had some tough losses. I think Jacksonville was a tough loss. Like, no way to say it. That was a tough loss. I didn't have that as a loss on their schedule at all. I did have Tampa as a loss. So to me, Tampa wasn't one of those games where I'm like, oh, they have to win this. NFC opponent, didn't need it. You needed Jacksonville, you needed Indy, and you needed the Pittsburgh loss. Like, if you could take any one of those back, particularly if you could take back the Jacksonville loss, then I'm like, okay, I'm good. I'm in a better space. Now we're talking about Patriots as win or lose, right? Like, you control your own destiny. And I think for this team, I think they're still good enough to control their own destiny and win out. I just think what we've been watching is there's an identity crisis with this team, because we talk about being that physical team, that team that's going to knock you off the ball and kind of play bully ball, but that's not the team that's on the field right now. And that's not what they do. And that's not their makeup. We're more of a passing team, more of a finesse team. And so you either embrace that and kind of come to grips like, hey, we're not the bullies. We're not the guys that's going to come in and knock you off the ball. And so you need to probably do a little bit more passing. You need to probably open your offense up a little bit more, spread around a little bit more, do some of the things that you did a couple of years ago with Isaiah McKenzie, get the ball into Cole Beasley's hands more often in space, and do some things so Josh doesn't have to take some of those shots, because teams are going to rush you up the middle. And I think they're starting to kind of figure that part out. And it's okay. You don't have to take the home run ball. You can take 10 yards here, 5 yards here, and just methodically drive down the field. And then you just got to be really good in the red zone. So if we can do those things, I think we'll be better off through the rest of the season. But hey, this game against the Patriots is it. Like, if you don't win this game, and I don't like to make predictions, so I won't say they're going to win or lose. I won't be on that poll. I'll just say I think they have a really good shot. I think if they stay true to who they are, I think they have a really good shot. We know the Patriots are not going to put their quarterback in to throw the ball 40 times. It's not going to happen. So they're going to come in and run the ball, because that's what they did the last game. And I think they'll take the same approach. Now, can we stop it and get them in 3rd and long? If we can do that, I think that's going to bode well for us. But we need to have long, sustained drives. Like, we can't have 3 and outs and then put the ball back where our offense has to say, okay, because the Patriots are going to try to run the ball. They're going to try to wear us down. And that's what Tennessee did. That's what Indy did. They just kept trying to run the ball at us, wear us down. And then, you can go 2.9, 3.3 yard average. And then if you pop 65, that's going to make your average go crazy. And Indy has probably the best running back in the league. So I'll admit that. And Jonathan Taylor, and the guy in Tennessee before he got hurt wasn't a slouch either. He probably was the best running back in the league. So, and running back by committee with the Patriots, they do an effective job. So we're going to have to be ready to stop the run, and then just be who we are. I think be who we are. We know we were a passing team. We're a passing team we pass to set up the run. So just true. Be that. Be true to who you are.
Yep. I think it was interesting too, in that first game, the Bills played 3 linebackers. Dodson played in that game because Klein was out with COVID. Now Klein's back. So maybe Klein plays, and maybe that helps in defending the run if they go with 3 linebackers. Again, we won't know that until we see the game on Sunday afternoon. But who knows, maybe that will help in defending the run. And I think the guys, and you would know better than me, but guys have to stay sort of their linebackers, sort of true to what the play call is, if that makes any sense. I mean, we saw Edmonds overrunning some plays, and he's done that, you know, in my opinion, too many times in his career, and he's making tackles too far down the field, in my opinion. You would know better than me. I mean, what do you think about that?
I mean, I think that's a valid. I think so. He has overrun some plays, and that he will run back. I think he's also made some plays as well, attacking down the line, and then he's missed some plays coming down attacking. I think they would all say, "Hey, there's some plays I think I did well. There's some plays I went back." Right. I think the way the defense is meant to be played, it's more of a gap sound, gap integrity type, and so it's not designed for you to, like, if you get too far from the field and get too much penetration, it creates a natural lane where the linebackers now got to decide, like, all right, am I here or am I here? And the ideals and in the way they really want to run that is like they want you to get penetration and hold your gap. Like, I'm gonna get here and hold my gap. And sometimes that can happen. Sometimes that's not realistic. And I think when it doesn't happen, that's where you see a lot of big plays, like everybody sound, gap. And then if you get the right linebacker sealed off, it creates a huge lane, because then the only other people to kind of feel it are the safeties. And so if you get the safety block like they did in Tennessee with a hold, I mean, obvious hold.
Right.
But they're not going to call that because it's in
Right.
Tennessee. Right. So now you're like, now you got a long one. And so really good running backs that got breakaway speed can take advantage of that. And I think that's the thing. Like, you just got to be sound and then hope that the guys can rally and get to it, because they have a gap integrity and then kind of a bend don't break philosophy where it's we're not going to always blitz you and attack you. It's we want to be sound. We will blitz you when we need to, but then we want to also be sound what we want to do. And then if you pop one, so be it. We're just going to limit the amount of yards that, after contact, or if you get a long one, that's it. We're not going to try to give you any more. So it's going to be fun to watch this Patriots game, because we know what they want to do. We know they want to run the ball. It'll be a little bit easier to pass in those conditions. So I want to see if we stay true, and if we can be methodical and get some plays on them and get some touchdowns early, what does it look like? Will he kind of get out of that run first philosophy that he has, and then see if Mac Jones can actually put the ball in his hands and throw the ball and make enough plays downfield. And our secondary is going to be interesting to watch, because I think now, I think Levi's had a pretty good season, but without Trey, how much are they going to try to test Dane Jackson?
Yeah. So, okay, message to the linebackers: don't get caught up in the wash. And, the Bills, for me, like, I know I've heard a lot of people talking about get out fast, get up on the scoreboard. That's what the Colts did. But that makes me nervous, because I don't feel like the Bills in the first quarter have been good all year long. So I'm a little nervous about that. But regardless, if you need a little side hustle, I know there's a sports book in town. And if they do finish 11-6, you might want to hit them up. Listen, man, it was great to see you. Happy holidays to your entire family. We're neighbors, kind of, sort of. You live in a development down from me. If I see you, great. If I don't, regardless, have a great Christmas. Have a great New Year's, man. I'm so happy that we could catch up and do this. And I'm sorry I took so much of your time.
Not a problem. This is a lot of fun, so not a problem.
But yeah, man, let's catch up soon. And I really thank you for doing this. Last thing before you go, one more time on your number and the website.
My phone number, area code 716-310-3982. Email is mkerner, last name Kerner, KERNER, @4,
Small business owners, entrepreneurs, hit him up. He's going to help you. Thanks for doing this, brother. I really appreciate it, man.
Happy holidays, you too, brother.